So this video is going to look at the UK's place in the world. So it's looking at that element of the changing economic world unit, which looks at kind of the UK's economy. And before we can do that, we need to sort of understand how the UK's position, its importance in the world has changed. So if we do that kind of on a timeline, so if we're looking at from 1920s through to 2018. Okay, so 1923, that was the height of the British Empire. At that point, it was believed, or kind of thought, that the British Empire covered approximately 1/3 of the world's Earth's surface, and there were 58 separate territories or countries around the world that were ruled by the British Empire. This meant that the UK had a massive global influence. It would have had, it had colonies all across the world in every single continent, therefore allowing it to exert some kind of global influence. However, as we moved through this period of time, what we saw was that kind of countries started to gain their independence. As we were moving this way, countries started to gain their independence away from the mother country, which was obviously Great Britain. Okay, and we started to see that the British Empire started to sort of disintegrate and start to break apart. Okay. In response to this, what we saw occur in 1949 was that Queen Elizabeth II, established the Commonwealth, which she would be head of. Okay. Now, this was basically in response to concerns that with the breakup of the British Empire, the UK would be losing some of the global influence and power that it had. And now the Commonwealth consists of 53 countries, many of which were territories of the British Empire. It covers an area of more than 29,958,000 square kilometres and covers around a quarter of the world's land area. There is a member of the Commonwealth on all 6 inhabited continents, and if you actually looked at the Commonwealth population, it's around 2.3 billion people. Okay. Now, the reason really for why we wanted this Commonwealth, as I said, was that the UK wasn't too keen on losing the global influence that it had with the British Empire, and the Commonwealth would allow it to retain some of that global influence. There's no legal agreement between countries within the Commonwealth to do anything really, but for example, most Commonwealth countries will provide military support for each other in the event of one of the Commonwealth countries being involved in some kind of military action. So, for example, the UK Army has a huge number of personnel from around the Commonwealth. The fact that it has that massive land coverage and on every continent in the world that is inhabited, it allows the UK as the head of the Commonwealth to still influence global kind of politics despite the loss of its empire. The Commonwealth also means that it's easier to migrate between countries. Again, there's sort of much freer movement of people and products between Commonwealth countries, and we also see side-on or added benefits, things such as like the Commonwealth Games, which increases tourism to host nations. What we then saw in 1973 was the UK joined the European Union. Now, the European Union consisted of, at the time, 27 different countries. And the point of the European Union was to allow for the free movement of people, goods and services between the member countries. This has had a massive impact on the UK. For example, it has promoted the migration of people into the UK from countries such as Poland, and has allowed the UK to kind of, maintain a global influence by having such good connections with its neighbouring countries. The European Union together provides a large trade market that allows the UK to compete with larger countries. What we know, however, is that on the 23rd of June 2016, the UK public, in a referendum, voted to leave the European Union. You will have heard of the term Brexit, hopefully. This was based on the fact that people that argued for Brexit argued the EU imposed unfair restrictions on UK businesses. They claimed that the UK paid billions of pounds a year in membership but received little in return, as much of the money, supposedly a yearly membership of about £11 billion, most of that money was helping develop less developed regions of the EU and not being spent in the UK. They argued that this money should be invested back in things such as the NHS. They also claimed that the EU wasn't allowing the UK to control its own borders, and the fact that leaving the EU would allow us to reduce the number of international migrants to come and live and work here. Now, the process of Brexit is quite a complicated one, so it's still ongoing. And, in 2018, and we haven't actually yet left the European Union. Okay? Very important thing, we're not going to leave the continent of Europe, we are just planning on leaving the European Union, that kind of group of European states. Okay? And obviously, as we do that, we're probably going to have to start branching out our trade relationships. Into the future, we're going to have greater trade relationships with the USA, China, and our other developing regions, places maybe like Nigeria, okay, which we know are going to become much larger economies and populations and global powers in the future.